Hi, and welcome to the Grieving with God podcast. I'm Dawn Byington. Shortly, we're going to transition to a mini episode that I recorded a while ago last week. I wasn't able to post this episode because I was very sick. So, unfortunately, this episode didn't get edited and released until now. What I wanted to take a moment to do was to introduce you to our new theme song. So, when I was pregnant with my son Ezekiel, my good friend and musician, Sue, wrote and recorded this song for me. As I was thinking about theme songs and what is the purpose of this podcast, her song came back to me and I said, what a perfect song that would be for our podcast. So I'm going to let you listen to a little bit of it here right before we transition to the mini episode. And then at the end of this episode, I'm going to have the entire song available for you to listen to. So stay tuned to listen to the entire song at the end of this episode. And here is just a glimpse of our new intro music for the Grieving with God podcast. Hi, and welcome to the Grieving with God podcast. I'm your host, Dawn Byington. This week is another mini episode, and this week we are going to be speaking about Ezekiel's story, which is my son Ezekiel, who was born still in January of 2018. I want to share with you a little bit about the beginning of our journey and everything that happened. A lot of this is also part of the book I'm going to be releasing hopefully very soon, called Ezekiel's Star. I want to share a little bit about our struggle with getting pregnant in the first place. So after my daughter was born in 2008, we had wanted another child. And there was problems with getting pregnant and just not the right time. I was going back to school, and every time we thought it was the right time, we would try and we would just not be successful. So we would have considered that infertility, though we never went to a fertility doctor to get either of us checked out. We just felt like if it was the Lord's will, it would happen. We already had two beautiful children. And so we just kind of went along. In June of 2017, my husband and I found out we were pregnant. I had been diagnosed with PCOS, and so I had been trying some different herbs and vitamins and things like that to try to help with that, to help me be fertile and keep the pregnancy. We had already suffered one miscarriage, and we were very nervous that we would experience the same thing this 2013 is when we suffered our first miscarriage and had our first touch of grief and loss regarding children. So when we found out in 2017 that we were pregnant, we were excited, scared, and very cautious. With the 2013 pregnancy, we really didn't tell anybody. We tried to keep it a secret. We wanted to wait a few weeks, but it ended up where I had to tell my family that we were pregnant and losing the baby at the same time. And I kind of vowed I did not ever want to do that again. If I found out that I was pregnant, I wanted to tell people right away. Not everybody, but the right people. So we tentatively crossed the thresholds of being pregnant with Ezekiel. My mother at this time was very sick with stage 4 ovarian cancer, which had spread pretty much throughout her whole body. We wanted to tell her first in the event that she passed away before he was born. His due date was her birthday. I felt like that was a sign from God. We felt like that was very significant. In the book, I go into the details of how I told my mom and the following doctor's visits and all that went on then. But then the day came when we found out that Ezekiel was diagnosed with Trisomy 18. I felt like my heart did more than break that day. I had never really experienced something like this, and it felt very surreal and disorienting. In the book, I go into the details of the phone call of the genetic specialist I was talking to, but it really felt like the world was coming out from under my feet. Um, that was the day our journey began, a journey of unknowns. We had no idea what was awaiting us. This was a journey full of pain, of sorrow, of walking down the road where we knew there was an end, but we had no idea when it would end. We were told that at 13 weeks pregnant, that he would be lucky to survive 16 weeks with everything that they had found wrong with his poor body. We ended up carrying him for 33 weeks. And so my book does detail all of that journey and everything I went through. That book sparked this podcast. And then after all the work that I've done with women since, I really felt like we needed a place where we could hear other people's stories. We can come to a place that was safe and honest and raw and come before the feet of Jesus and just lay everything out and say, oh, wow, they hurt too. That person has a story like mine. Or, yeah, I've thought those things too. As I said before, I had started journaling and writing down everything because one, I didn't want to forget anything. And two, I felt so alone. Verbalizing my thoughts and putting them out there for everyone made me feel less alone. And the more I tried to read books or tried to find resources, I just was not finding what I was needing. I needed a voice that told me it was okay to have questions, it was okay to doubt, and it was okay to be angry. Our calendar quickly filled up with doctor's appointments, and my life was pulled in so many different directions. I was dealing with the imminent death of my son, the imminent death of my mother. I was homeschooling my kids. I was directing an elementary play, and I was part of our community church. I wanted to spend as much time as I could with my mother, but at the same time, make memories with my kids and my husband while we were pregnant with Ezekiel. So the days felt off and weird, and I would walk through each day with tears just behind the mask. I would mechanically work through rehearsals, planning our homeschool days, but everything was heavy. As we navigated these days, I began to really question God. Some people said I shouldn't have done that. Some people said I should not be angry with God, that I just needed to trust that he was in control and everything was going to be just as he wants it. And that control is what made me mad. He was in charge. He was sovereign. So why was I losing them both? Why was I losing my mom and my son? I begged God to spare them for me. I pleaded that I wasn't as strong as he thought I was, and I was not able to handle this. I was right. I wasn't able to handle it. But as I navigated those weeks, the Lord showed me that it wasn't about me being able to handle it, that it was about me coming to him and having him handle it and having him guide me because I can't. So even saying that he gives us these things to test us still makes me kind of queasy. I still haven't worked out the theology of all of that yet, that he allows these things to happen to us. But my heart still chooses that God walked with me and he grieved with me, but didn't necessarily cause this to happen. Because we do live in a fallen world where things are in motion. There is a cause and effect. There is sin, there is sickness, there's death. And none of this is what he had intended. I could be wrong in all of this. But at this moment, this is my heart. And my heart is aching. My heart is one that desires to know and understand God and his ways. There's a chapter in my book where I talk about trusting God and walking with him and being angry with him. All these feelings are valid and they are real. We need to be comfortable coming to the throne of God in awe and humility, but also with our questions, with all of our pain and our sorrow, asking him to help. We need to be able to talk it through him, even if we're angry, and not be afraid that he's going to leave, because he's not going to leave. As I pressed in with my questions, he never changed, but I changed. I grew, I learned, and just like Job, I had only known of God, but now I have seen him. So in the next mini episode, I'm going to discuss what it was like to be pregnant with a child I knew was going to die. My womb felt like a tomb, and it was very difficult to come to terms with that feeling. And also what it was like to encounter people at church who didn't quite know what was going on with us and wanted to congratulate us on being pregnant. So I hope to see you next week on Grieving with Dawn.
Shadow